Hey, Bunny. Uh, yeah, she has joined.
Good morning. Well, evening, guys. Sorry, I'm in the morning here. I'm just waking up.
Yeah, we'll thought we'll just cover some basics ahead of the hackathon, and including the design challenge that you're interested to take up as well.
I think I've been convinced to maybe pivot for that Ether Delta, but
Eid then, what is it? Sorry. Okay, we'll probably wait for
you're talking about
one.
the challenge. Sorry. For your
Yeah,
hackathon.
yeah, the design
Sorry.
challenge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Start in a couple of minutes anyway. We'll use the recording so that people can see later. Just see if anyone more might join. Then we'll start. It's all Phoenix Guild to start the show. So yeah, we can. I guess we can begin now, so that we can
Yeah,
reuse the recording later as well. Yeah, I think you have the slides with you, right? You can.
I do. Do you want
Yeah, you
me
can.
to get started?
Yeah, we can start. Yeah.
Okay, let me share my screen. A moment. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we are just going to have a quick session on, especially for the ongoing Ocean Protocol India programs hackathon. So, we are going to talk about, actually, Prakash mostly is going to talk about Ocean Protocol, the Academy, the Ambassador program, and the ongoing hackathon. We'll also talk about the bounties that are associated with the hackathons and, of course, some cool stuff coming up. So, the agenda, or rather, what we are going to discuss in today's call is just very basics of Web3 that will be taken by me for about 10 minutes odd. And then we are going to do an introduction to Ocean Academy. All of this would be taken by Prakash. We'll talk about Ocean Protocol, what are the core initiatives happening right now in the ocean ecosystem. An interesting program for all of you to look forward to, the Ocean Ambassador program. We'll also talk about the hackathon, some tips and tricks on how you can participate and how you can get started. Of course, we are going to leave majority of time for common Q&As on Ocean Protocol. This could be anything, so I really encourage you all, whether you're familiar with Ocean Protocol or you are attending this workshop, this session for the first time, and you have absolutely no idea how this works. And if you have a question, I highly encourage you to just go ahead and pop in your questions on the chat. Because as I always say in all of my sessions, and all of our sessions rather, that we are all beginners, and this is just at the cusp of what is starting in the Web3 ecosystem. So feel free to ask your questions and ask a lot of questions, so you're able to start working on the right kind of bounties that would interest you. So a quick understanding of what is the Web3 ecosystem and how it works. Just going to try to demystify a couple of jargons for you, both from a technology and non-technology perspective, but mostly just talking about the ecosystem, right? So basically, if we see today, a lot of things that we are doing is like completely online. Plus, thanks to COVID, I mean, we saw this revolution coming, but now thanks to COVID, it has come much sooner than anticipated. We basically live most of our lives online. We are completely hyper connected all the time. Even if we are traveling physically, we use the internet for doing searches, for getting reviews, for searching for restaurants and everything, right? So basically, all there is so much data and information that is captured on the internet right now. And in order to facilitate some kind of interactions with other applications or other services that we are not so familiar with, we use third parties, right? For example, we use Ubers to book a cab. We use nowadays we even use applications like Urban Clap in India to book salon services, right? Which used to be completely in person, but everything has revolutionized and we have become so dependent on these third parties, primarily because we don't have enough time to review a particular service and create that relationship, right? And the second is, there are so many new avenues coming up that it is not very easy or straightforward to trust these services directly. So we almost always lean on the help of these third parties. Now, some of the issues that arise because of this is that all of these third parties largely are controlled by a single owner, a single authority, right, or a small group of members, which makes it very centralized. So tomorrow, if the third party kind of takes up all of our money, which is something that we can all relate to, when there are any financial crises or centralized banks that go bankrupt, all of the money of the folks is just being absorbed by these centralized third parties, right? So what happens in this case, and how are we able to resolve this issue to make sure that internet as such, or the online ecosystem, is more and more the power in the online ecosystem is more and more in the hands of people and not in the hands of one centralized entity. So just to give you a quick example, like basically when we go to a shop, we want to buy something, right? It's not that we can get it straightforward. So here it's just a coffee shop example. When we want to buy something, the coffee shop needs our bank or our associated credit card, debit card entity to approve that particular transaction for us. Unless and until this particular centralized or middleman entity does not approve the transaction for us, it will not go through and we will not be able to take advantage of this service, right? This is the a typical centralized ecosystem that we are living in right now. Now, this is where blockchain kind of stepped in and is trying to make this ecosystem more and more decentralized. That is, the power is taken away from one individual and given to a collective, where a collective which consists of a larger number of people takes a decision and performs a particular validation and verification that is required. Now, to replicate this entire centralized kind of ecosystem into and try to give the analogy in the blockchain world, or rather, to explain this entire process in a decentralized way. When we pay through blockchain, right, when we do financial transactions through blockchain, we can go and use our cryptocurrencies. So you can think of the cryptocurrencies as our parallel, as an analogous to our fiat currencies that are digital, that are created online and based on the principle of cryptography. So we take these cryptocurrencies to the blockchain. So instead of the bank, which is one single entity, the blockchain is a network of people, is a network of nodes that are working together, right, to make this validation happen for us. So this network of nodes validates your transaction and approves your transaction if you have enough balance in your wallet. So wallet is a terminology that is used to signify your account, right, which is in our typical Web2 sense, it's our bank accounts, or it's our whatever account where we are going to store our money in, right? And that's your an analogy to that is going to be your wallet in the Web3 world. where this blockchain network will check if there is enough amount of currency in your wallet. If it is there, it will approve the transaction and you can go ahead and you can take advantage of that service, right? So basically this entire network, or think of it as a huge ecosystem, where it's not just one person or one computer that is checking your verification, but it's a group of computers, it's a group of nodes that is creating a trust factor by using some kind of algorithm, right? That and this algorithm, also known as consensus protocol, is being created, or rather this algorithm is being agreed upon by this entire network. So everybody in the network agrees that yeah, we are okay with this algorithm, let's take this algorithm and do the verification, right? The verification is done for you and then you get your service, right? So we also call this process as disintermediation. What this essentially means is that we are removing an intermediary from the picture altogether, and we are creating this entire network that is doing the work for you. So what was the origin story and how did it all begin, right? So in the year 2008, there was a huge financial crisis in US. The stock markets fell, the financial institutions went bankrupt. There was a very popular investment bank called Lehman and Brothers, which declared bankruptcy. And of course, then this kind of had a spiral effect. All of the other associated financial institutions also went down. A lot of people lost their money, and most importantly, a lot of people lost their trust in these kind of centralized institutions. From this spun an idea called Bitcoin. This was a paper that was published by an anonymous group of authors called Satoshi Nakamoto, who described how a particular technology called blockchain would work if we can create digital currencies supported by this computer science concept called cryptography. If we can create these currencies, we can facilitate seamless transaction online on a digital entity without worrying about security of that particular entity, and we can accomplish this transaction in a very short amount of time using blockchain. And of course, the centralized concept, that the entire blockchain is a network. It's a network, so think of it as a group of people, with millions and billions of people as a part of that network, who are doing the verification and validation of that cryptocurrency transaction over the network. So that's what this paper talked about. And the primary idea, the ethos of blockchain, or the Web3 ecosystem as we call it today, is to ensure that all the products, all the services, and most of the ecosystem is decentralized. That is, there is no one single central party who's taking advantage of the power that lies within the hands of the community. Of course, in 2010, there was one slice of pizza that was bought for 10,000 BTC. Almost impossible to buy it, even 10,000 BTC right now. So when we think of blockchains, how can we think of them in the simplest terms, right? So think of them as enhanced Google Sheets. I'm sure all of us use Google Sheets. Google Sheets are actually nothing but Excel sheets shared online, right? What an innovation that came on top of Excel. But now think of blockchain as something similar, right? That in a particular Google Sheet, you can give a read and write access, right? Universally, right? Anybody can read and write, but there are certain programmatic algorithms that disallow specific rights, right? So not everybody has right access, but the right access is being programmed within those sheets, right? So think of it as that. So that's your blockchain, right? Certain specific elements called smart contracts, which have some business logic. So certain smart contracts allow certain people to write on top of those contracts. However, all of the information available can be read by everyone. So think of it as only if you have a valid input, you can change the document. Only entries, old entries, cannot be altered or deleted. That's why we call blockchain as persistent storage, or we often call it immutable. We can't change the entries quite easily, right? And everyone can see that no one provided a non-compliant output. This sentence seems very complicated, but basically it just means that everyone can see what are the inputs that are allowed in a particular smart contract, right? Most of the smart contracts on blockchains, public blockchains, are transparent and are published so that the community can view the open source code, and they can see that what kind of interactions can happen with that particular application, right? So this is one of the biggest things about blockchain or about the web3 ecosystem, in the way the ethos of how we build applications, of how we build solutions has changed, right? So, as I mentioned, just at the very core technical level, if you think of it, instead of having a centralized entity control everything and everybody, the power or the distributed ledger or the information, as we call it, is distributed amongst all the peers of the network, right? Of the nodes. Some of the things that you may want to kind of just understand how blockchain works, what are the underlying principles. So some of the popular concepts associated with blockchain are distributed systems, that is, information is distributed to everybody across the network, and that's how people are able to verify and validate easily. Cryptography, right, uses a lot of encryption mechanisms on blocks, so that's how your information is quite safe. And peer to peer networking, what that means is you're not always talking and listening to just one single party. You can interact with your peers and get information, right? And last but not the least, consensus algorithms, that is, the entire network consents to a particular change that happens on the network, or a particular algorithm that is followed by that network, right? So consensus is required in order for a decentralized application or community to function effectively. All right, so that's the basics of Web3. I'm going to hand it over to Prakash to take over and talk about Ocean Protocol.
Sure, yeah. Thank you so much for that basics introduction. The main reason I asked you was even over 100 times, I don't think I can pull off that very accessible introduction. So you are the best to start with. So before we go ahead, I think I'll start presenting. So it will be slightly much more wider on terms of what doubts that we might have. Uh, is my screen visible?
Uh, yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah. As you might have heard so far, like we have so much protocols. Like starting Bitcoin was the first gen cryptocurrency, right? So since then, so much of them have come up, especially Ethereum since 2015, and these are all the second generation protocols. So each of them have their own use cases, but almost like 90% of the protocols are based on decentralized finance, because finance is almost very vastly used, and cross-border transactions is something that is very much sought after. That is the reason why they are very much in play. And multiple utilities also started emerging in terms of community forming through NFTs as well, right? So these are the broader perspective that we've seen so far. And of course, Ethereum has played a larger part of it, and a lot of protocols that have come up since then are basically Ethereum forks, right? So Ethereum forks have been completely open source, and they try to find different protocols that the main network has not addressed. So that's how most of the protocols have come up. So with regards to Ocean, the finance part of it is much lesser. The aim of the protocol hereby is to deal with data science in particular, because data science and AI, before all that, the basic tenet, why do we need this protocol, would be to compare it like how do we value data? How do we actually ascribe value to particular data? That's the main concept behind Ocean protocol, how it came into play. And their main core product is a decentralized data marketplace that has been functioning for the past couple of years, especially. And if you compare a lot of traditional metaphors in the real life world, right, you often see that data is the new oil because that's so valuable. But oil traditionally is almost like a consumable. You don't have a derivative after it. But unlike oil, data is something that you can derive value as and when it matures, right? Because you must have often noticed that when you get a raw data in its nascent form, it's not really valuable. But how do you assign more value to it? You have to do a lot of processing, filtering, aggregation, and then from the analysis, then you get a lot of valuable insights. So these are the insights that actually make it to the headline. And this is something that the big tech are very efficient in terms of funneling data all from all the users, something that we always observe, right? And in terms of data assets, as a common man, I think it's very hard to add value to a particular data asset, right? Data asset means it's not just junk data. Any kind of data set that has value in the market or value to another person. So that's the entire tenet of assigning value to a particular data set. Like just how Bitcoin evolved as a store of value, Ocean Protocol kind of focuses on the store of value for a data asset that you can own. And ownership rights has so much aspects to it, which we'll deal in the upcoming slides as well. So in terms of data assets, it's always in the detail, right? So there are so much uh, domain experts in respective field and who actually don't know how well to monetize it. So, and when the big techs see something that the domain experts do not know, that's how the smaller startups often get acquired, and because of the inherent value in the data assets. The data assets alone get acquired in really big amounts because of how effectively they have been good at analyzing, filtering, and collecting it. That is the major effort involved. Like only after it's really made valuable, then the selling happens. But what if you can actually leverage it much earlier before it gets monopolized by the big tech? So that is the initial hypothesis how Ocean Protocol had come up. So how do you enable data economy through Web3 protocols? That's the essential ideology behind this. So if you look at basically or Google, Facebook, and of course now it's Meta. So all of them make use of leverageable data assets. Like so much of every devices that we use keep giving live data streams every day. So each of them is valuable. Big tech have the leverage to do that. They have the assets to make use of it much better than the other people. So this is almost like a reverse way of doing it. Like what if we can actually assign value to the data assets through a decentralized marketplace and all the other derivative market assets? So in terms of giving a value to how effective a data asset can be is a story of Gold Corp, right? So Gold Corp was something is like a which a dying mining business industry, and it was valued at very less than 10 million. So against all advice, the CEO just said that no, there is a lot of value to this data that we have. So all he had to do was put a 1 million bounty to derive a lot of value so that they can give information on all the important mining places in Brazil, especially. And once he put up that, it came so much submissions came from all over the world, and it gave up data assets of so much gold mining sites. And because of that pivot, it's now $1 billion industry. It's almost valued at 6 billion right now. It's all they had to do was publish a valuable data asset, right? So this is something a good example that we can find in the Web2 ecosystem. And that is one way of doing it, but we don't have not everyone has the tools to do it. But there are different ways we can actually do it. So that is how one of the core reasons why Ocean Protocol kind of exists. And private data is very important. Every time, so much of the data assets that we emit every day is very valuable. We cannot monetize it directly because we don't have the mechanisms. We have to rely on a lot of third parties to do this traditional marketplace of data assets, right? So this is something, forming this mechanism is something that is possible through Web3. So of course, Ocean is not the only protocol. Like we have different protocols trying in different use cases. Chainlink offers through a lot of decentralized price feeds so that there is accurate price feed mentioned on any price, right? Because if the accurate live price feed is not there in any particular DeFi protocols, a lot of financial destabilization can happen. So that is one example of another database protocol. When it comes to Ocean, what they actually try to do is make sure that you get the data ownership towards what you build. So ownership is essentially is not it's just like how you hold your own private keys for Bitcoin. Here it's you can have your own private keys, but beyond of that, on top of that, how do you actually assign value? That is the most important. After assigning value, what is the bundle of bribes that you get? So that is the most key important aspect. So if you look at the marketplace, anyone can create their own data assets and they can create their own data token or data NFTs that is there in the upcoming marketplace as well. So essentially at the end of it, we make sure that there is incentivized data sharing. Like when there is a lot of transactional value between people, make sure that the algorithm is safe, and we make sure that there is a lot of data sovereignty involved in this. Yeah, and to the data marketplace is just one asset, one side of it. Like once data scientists get comfortable with how it essentially works, anyone can play with around it even without spending any money. That's why you have test nets where you can try to play around with test data sets that you find important. It can be very simple. Like you can just create a Amazon marketplace of all the products that you like, and you can publish it. And if there is demand on it, even on the testnet, maybe you can experiment how you can do it in the real marketplace as well. That is one thing that one can do. And one of the main initiatives that this is one of the reasons why we have a lot of communities happening around the ocean community as well as the Ocean DAO. So Ocean DAO is essentially a grants program that is orchestrated by Ocean Protocol Foundation. So almost in the overall tokenomics, if you look at it, almost 51% of the entire tokens that will ever be minted will belong to the community. And Ocean DAO has a major part of it. We get monthly grants by people, and it gets voted by the community. And we have several projects that get funded by the Ocean DAO. So our own program, that is Indian Ocean Outreach, is also a funded program, and Phoenix Deal is also one of the most active communities that have started to the Ocean DAO as well. So this is also one of the key focus areas. Like anyone who has a really good idea, it need not be really technical in nature. It can just start off as a community outreach, and eventually we can start. They can support developers or marketers or content writers. So many aspects are there. And one of the upcoming use cases in the Ocean marketplace is something called data farming. This is something that will be too detailed for beyond the scope of this call. But one thing I can say is who those folks who are actually trying to buy data assets that they find useful, there'll be a lot of initiatives like data for farming and airdrops to people who actually consume data assets. So that is one of the really exciting news that might be upcoming in the future quarters. But one comparison will be like how ENS Ethereum naming service had airdrops for people who actually held the domain names, right? So that is one way of comparison of how it can also impact for data consumers. So that's some use case that could also be useful to write about in the writer's bounty as well. And yeah, I think, and this is one of the most, I'm pretty sure most of the people here have done this Ocean Academy, at least part of it. This is something that is really exciting. I think this is the first time we also got onboarded through the Ocean Protocol Foundation as well. Ocean Academy essentially deconstructs a lot of concepts right from the basics of blockchain to what Ocean Protocol is all about. And once you get onboarded as an Ocean ambassador, that is totally up to you. But once if you actually become an Ocean ambassador, you get a lot of opportunities to learn and earn at the same time, and you get a lot of activities such as activity farming and so on. And this is actually a glimpse of what's actually going to come for all the Ocean ambassadors who are part of it. So even if the entire data marketplace can get a little technical for starters, but there is always a learning curve with it, and you can learn alongside by being an active ambassador as well. That is something that is really useful. So as an Ocean ambassador, what you can do is get involved in a lot of activities, trying to simplify content or the fundamentals, especially. Price action is not encouraged, but apart from that, there are so much activities that you can do, and you can also work on specific app productions as well. And yeah, this is some alpha. Is almost this program goes live from next month. Like basically any kind of activities, if you're really interested in contributing to the general management of Ocean Ambassador program, there is so much activities that are available, and some of them are recurring. So let's say if you want to take up in community management or you want to write contents, that have really good value. And once you are able to submit this as an Ocean ambassador yourself, you'll get rewarded either retrospectively or at the end of each month. And if your activity is really good, there are some metrics to measure this, and you also get some bonus rewards later on. And this is another example. Like, what are they? Sometimes it's very hard to assign activity, right? But you can still get awarded for a base contribution to the Ocean protocol, either of the Ocean protocol or to the Ocean ambassador program. For example, let's say you create an app, so you that is really built using Ocean, and you deploy it through the Ocean community. And if you really have good traction on top of it, you can get rewarded based on your contribution. And there is no limit to how much activities you can actually take. So, right from meme design, social media posts, or even physical event organizations. I think this is very important. When COVID opens up, I think we can think about physical event, but online events are also encouraged, where if you hold regular events in your community who are interested in really Web3 basics and Ocean Protocol as well, that can get you some really good earning opportunities as well. So this is some alpha into what you can do beyond the current hackathon and the ambassador program as well. And yeah, I think before we go to this, did anyone have any specific doubts on the hackathon bounties that have been posted? I know Diana mentioned about the design bounty. We can talk about that as well. Any specific questions on the bounties that have been posted before? We can talk about it before talking to the rest of the slides as well.
Prakash, if those who are watching the Twitch, how do we get if they have any questions?
I think that's a good question. I have to check on my Twitch channel. So far, I haven't seen any comments so far. Let me see.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can also post in the chat as we go. Like, for example, even if this is your first hackathon, what is it that um, you would like to know in terms of like how do you get started, or how do you crack, how do you build stuff, or anything related to like basically whatever question you have in your mind before you would like to dive into like a hackathon. Any questions? I think we can take it.
Yeah, you can
Uh,
also drop them in the chat. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Trishul.
Hi. Hi. So I was interested in the writer's bounty.
Okay.
So I was hoping what would be the exact scope of the topic that we can select from to write a article on. Is there a specific scope that we have to target, or it's really open-ended problem?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that question. Let me just share some references on that. So, of course, I think this was quite well thought of before we started off, because usually hackathons are. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Usually, so content writing is something really important because in traditional, you have so much information, traditional media posting a lot of information. But in Web3, there is so much misinformation. And that's why we value this aspect, because media is not going to post about the fundamentals of Bitcoin or Ethereum. They only post about price action every day morning, whether it's bear market or bull market. So beyond all this nonsense, it's really important to spread deconstruct a lot of fundamentals, right? That is very important because, of course, we all believe in certain cryptocurrencies, but you need to know why each protocol functions this way, and that is only possible through actually a spread of really good information. So that's why this is a very underrated skill, I would sort of say, so to speak. So in this, on the Gitbook link, I have posted a couple of reference articles in terms of how you can summarize. So one is just like a community call review. This is something we do often. Like anyone who attended a community call, you can pick this up. Try to summarize what was discussed in the call in your own words, and you can get rewarded for it. That is one example. And we also have a particular guest review series that can give like a reference article of sorts, so that it makes it much easier for you to do. For this writer's bounty, we have a few topics that we have mentioned. So if let's these are three topics that we have kept it open. So depending on your comfort, I think you can pick up any use case that is preferable to you, and you can go ahead and write on a topic. So at the end of the day, I think the only criteria that matter is It should not go more than 4 pages, and it just tests, see how well you have understood. It need not be really deep. If you're the first time you're writing it, it's totally understandable. It just means that it should be understandable by any new person reading about it. So that's the major thing. You can start with really one or two one-liners that you can write about how is AI in Web3 important, like how is Ocean Protocol important, and how does Ocean Protocol stands with other ones. If that is not actually, if this is not your cup of tea, you can also always write about anything, any general article that you find on the Ocean Protocol blog post as well. Like, because there are a lot of use cases that we mentioned right from robot. I mean, these are all just some examples, but you can always pick up any one use case that you feel that you are comfortable with, and you can keep you can start writing on it. So it comes to really good drafts, and you can always form a team as well with someone who has the time to go through this as a content writer as well. So that is one. But the judging will be fairly simple. It just has to be understood by anyone who's outside of Ocean Protocol. Not It's not something you will be judged by any expert panel per se. But that is a really good metric to have. So these three topics are the ones. If in case if you find these two topics a little vast, you can go to Ocean Pearl. This link is posted there on the Gitbook, and you can pick up any project of your choice. You can I'll just give you an example. Let's say you go to Ocean Pearl and type out projects. Let's say I'm from the healthcare domain and I'm only interested in my domain, right? Let's say I just have to type health and you find some projects that have come up. So you just pick them, you uh, see if there are new proposals, then you can just have your own perspective. You go read the proposals and just try to understand what they're looking at. Almost most of them who are submitting for the first time have almost very little idea about Web3. So that is your cue to write about. So this is something that could be relatively friction free as well. Or if you actually want to write a blog post on the overall Indian outreach program, that's also welcome. If someone wants to do it, all they need to do is do a deep dive on the entire Gitbook. So that is one option. But of course, since I mentioned it, you might face some competition there. But yeah, I think in terms of resources, Ocean Academy is something very common with most of the people have onboarded, right? So I think that would be a good place to start. If you're actually a coder, you can go ahead and look at how the open ocean marketplace works. So you have smart contracts, and you also have the front end providers as well. So most of it is open source, and I think you can have a look to understand how the open marketplace also functions. That is one way to do it as well. Yeah. Yeah. So that is the entire one. So for the writer's bounty is essentially start with something that you're really comfortable, pick one and try to deep dive. You can form a squad of two people and make sure that you cover it really well for the deadline. So if you have spent really, I think even if you spend 5 hours of time overall, I think you will be able to come up with really good entry. And if we have good entries, we may increase the price pool as well. That's one possibility that we might do it. But overall status, these are the three topics that we have done for the writer's bounty as well. Yeah. Was that helpful, Trishul?
I got it. Thanks for that explanation. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. That's and if in case if someone is only interested in, let's say, NFTs or something, you can write about data NFTs, but you'll find very little articles because that's an upcoming feature. But if you're able to actually come up with something really good, that will also be a good entry that you can find. That's one thing. And yeah, of course, that is one. If you're good at writing, you can take a writer's bounty. But let's say if you're really good at videos, then I think you'll rather do that. That is also something really welcome. You can take it up, like you can just make a really good video review. Can be even just 5 minutes. So if you feel there is any particular topic that you want to deep dive or give a commentary, editing skills are not a must. All you need to do is the judging criteria is just about how well you're able to explain to a newcomer. That's what's needed. So any expert deep dive is not necessary, but it's just about how well you have understood and how you're able to convey to any newcomer. So that's the takeaway we'll have from the media bounty as well. This could be fun. I think we have two prizes that are earmarked. So the first one will get 300 USD worth of Ocean, and second will be $200. And yeah, the topics that are mentioned here will be a lot of review topics that are like, let's say, so for example, let's say you don't want to talk about Ocean Protocol or anything, that's also fine. We have something called as explain like I'm five. What is cryptocurrencies? You come up with creative explainers, and that is also will be a very nice to have video as well. So I think that's something we'll be looking forward to as well. Or like if you're really good at memes that are really shorter than 1 minute, that is also something we would be welcome to see as well. And this is another pro tip. Let's say if you want to do multiple entries, that's also fine, but make sure that you give your concentration as, let's say you form a squad of three, you can always submit three different entries if you do that. But just make sure that you're channeling all you strategically, which of the challenges that you would like to choose. That is something else. And this one is called, yeah, this is something really interesting because uh, I was able, even though I don't have a designer background, one of the DAO challenges that I actually won long back was a designer bounty itself. So just to give an experience on this, so you at the end, Web3 experience is really different from traditional UI UX reviews. So what every product review in the Web3 ecosystem is how usable it is for an average user. I think that's what's more important in terms of this challenge. Another aspect is the design aspect. You can give a lot of suggestive changes or commentaries to how a website actually looks or how it can be actually improved. That itself can be a really value add in terms of a design bounty. At least I think there are at least a couple, total of $1,000 allotted to this. There is one is the partner track and one is the design bounty on specific examples. I just show some example here, like how UI UX review can look like. Even if you're not a really good, you don't have a design background, you can always find a designer who can concentrate on the design skills, while you can concentrate on how is your user experience and how it can be made better. Because I'm pretty sure Ocean Academy is going through an overhaul, but let's say if you come up with a really good feedback review, I think that will be really valuable for the Ocean Academy team or Ocean Pearl team as well. So that's one example. Just an example I'll give. Let's say this, if some of you, I think Yana might be aware of how bib functions. So this is an example of how the bib.so redesign is. So at the end of the day, I think they have used Figma, but if you how you can come up with suggested changes is post the existing screenshots, and you can try to reposition yourself in terms of how you can make it better. So that is the first, like all, like this can even be done with some creative tooling as well. The very basic tooling that you can do by yourself. It need not be done on Figma per se, or you can basically host the screenshots on Notion site and make sure that how it can look better. So this is one example. You don't need to do a review of each page, but just the clear important pages with a clear call to action. I think that will be really good way to do it. So this is an example. I'll post a link later on as well. So this is a lot easier to tackle for the UI review. And forming teams, again, I think that's the best way to do it. Make sure that one of you looks at the content and the other focus on design. And this is, of course, those who have the time. If you want to come up with a brand booklet, design booklet, that's also a bonus. But you can Google it and see how it actually fits. So for that, all you need to do is look at how the original website functions, and let's say if you can come up with a design booklet of sorts. So these are all additional bonus anyway. If you really have the time to do it, I think you can go for it. If you're attempting for more than one track of design bounties, that's one thing. Yeah, any questions here on the design bounty challenge?
No, I think that example is very nice, the bib.so, the way they have done it.
Mhm.
I think we can share that with folks who are interested. We have a couple of designers, I think, who would be interested to take it up, but probably they need a template like how they can go ahead and do the review and what and all websites are up for review. So I think those information, if we post, probably they can take it forward, I guess.
Exactly. All right. So I think these are the four examples that we have, just to make it, so just that we don't throw too many examples at people, and for matter of focus. So the Algora marketplace, it's requires a bit more of research. So that's why there is $500 exclusively allotted for that. But we have some clear instructions on how you can come up with it for inspiration and everything. So that has one. And we have other three options for the mainstream design bounty. And we have, using these references, you can also come up with something really similar. Ocean Academy and Ocean DAO voting portal itself is a part of Pearl, but you can always pick anyone that really interests you and that you find easier to understand, and have an attempt at this. Any questions you can always ask in the Telegram so for any of our partner channels as well. And of course, even though this is not most of the challenges are not developer heavy, but if you have a really good, if you're interested in tackling some of the DevOps implementation, you don't need to come up with a complete code by itself. You can at least come up with a really good pathway that you feel is implementable by anyone who's actually looking to make this. Because some of the problem statements that we have mentioned here is actually each of them are actually a multiple $1,000 grants in the Ocean DAO protocols. Every month we have a lot of initiatives being posted. This is the one that is posted now. But if some of you were to take up this, these are really high impact ones. And if you really have come up with a really good submission, we can also help you make the grant as well, where you can claim even much better ones. So this is at actually very high leverage. So even though the total price pool is $500, the larger price pool allotted to the, if you want to take it more than the hackathon DevOps map, you can feel free to reach out to any of us, and I think I can also guide you in terms of how we can make this into a bigger proposal for the upcoming post hackathon workup as well. Yeah, and another thing is for the ambassador price pool as well. So this is actually mostly not just for the Indian community. We also have the best overseas track for any one winner who comes up with really good entry. That is one. And as a regular poster, it also gives you a chance to submit a third entry, because and if you look at the hackathon rules, you can submit up to 2. But if if you really want to really go for it and you want to submit a third, you're welcome to do so. But as long as you're completed the Ocean 101, at least the 101 should be the basis. If you're an onboard as an ambassador, it's an added bonus as well. But of course, there is $1,000 allotted for overseas track, as well as if you have a chance to win a third entry from the prize pool as well. And a couple of partner tracks. This is also a developer-centric one. So anyone who is able to comfortable with either Etherscan API stack, or even if you're from a Web2 traditional background, you can take a look at the Etherscan API and see if you can come up with really some creative use case design or a design booklet of sorts. That's one thing. You can read more about this in detail. It's there mentioned on the Git book as well. You can have a look at it, and if you have any doubts, you can head to their Ocean Missions Discord server as well and ask for a few doubts there. Yeah, and this is the exclusive single prize bounty, as mentioned earlier. I think single best and winner of anyone who adapts Ocean Marketplace for the Algovera marketplace for design data algorithms. I think that is a specific one for algorithm design bounty as well. So the rules are similar. I think it's same as design bounty challenge before. The only difference is here you have to come up with a design, wherein the previous bounty you have to do a UI UX review. Since we don't have a functioning marketplace, you can make use of any the one marketplace that you feel is really good for inspiration, and you can design your own screenshots from the main website as well. And yes, I think this is something we kept up. It's called as the diversity bounty. Of course, we have a lot of market fluctuations, so I'll make a small change to this. Instead of $200, 200 Ocean, I'll make this as $200 USD in Ocean. So whatever the exchange rate and at the time of distribution, you will get it in Ocean. Like for example, whatever the current market price, you will get the exact values in dollars when it's sent to you. Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot to Nana as well for making being part of this and helping us host this. And yeah, that's it. So we have a lot of materials, and any feedback will be appreciated. I think we plan to have a few more workshops, especially on the very complex ones, and a lot of initiatives are actually ongoing as well, because especially the core tech developer bounty, if you really want to contribute to the Ocean tech stack, those are some really high leverage ones, because some of the core tech initiatives are not just they're not just $500 bounties. They're part of a larger grant program. You can get access up to even 10-20 grants if you really have the bandwidth to pull that off. But of course, I think it's always advisable to focus on problem statement as a squad, so that it's much easier to tackle in a really distributed manner, so that there is you have enough people to help you out, and he'll help each other as well. And for mentorship, we have we have most of us open here, and Yana as well, she's really a good design, developer background as well. So any of us can help you in that as well. Yeah, any open questions? Yeah, I think some of you might be listening in mute. But yeah, I think we will. The session was recorded, so we will post this details stream link on YouTube as well and post it. And if anyone has a specific questions, feel free to ask now as well.
Yep, you can feel free to ask us later as well in Telegram and just start, like as Prakash mentioned, I think it's a good time to just start discussing amongst yourself, form some smaller groups, and you can start doing some research work about like ocean. If you're interested in media bounties, one of you could just get the content, one of you could develop a video. So, however you want to work in teams, it would be really cool. And yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to couple of winners from ocean gate the Phoenix Guild. So hoping to get some teams win some prize money. That would be nice. And also would be nice to see finally some kind of video material coming from women in this space. So and definitely there are like, I'm sure as some of you have gone through the ocean ocean 101 as well, you can see that there could be some terminologies which are highly technical or which are not something straightforward, and folks, you have that ability to simplify those terminologies, or maybe just create a small video with some subtitles and stuff like that. I think cool stuff like that also would really help the next set of people to be onboarded to ocean or in web3 to web3 in general. So I think those kind of bounties I'm really looking forward to see how folks can come up with. Yeah, best of luck. Feel free to ask us any questions and we're happy to help you.
Yeah, the early signs are already there. I think majority are from here or from the Phoenix Guild. So looking forward to a lot of exciting entries there. But yeah, I think as so one more thing I would like to stress is usually a lot of hackathons are developer centric. So we intend to make this very community centric, where you can pick up anything. You just all you need to do is you get rewarded for the creativity, right? Because not a lot of Web2, even Web2 contests or hackathons don't do that. So, but in Web3, each aspect is very valuable, because just with high tech, any community cannot just make it, right. You need high tech, you need community understanding, and you need that value creation for everyone who's involved. So I think that's the ethos behind keeping a lot of accessible bounties and make sure that everyone has a chance at a dedicated win chance as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Trishul, you had I think you saw your mic going off. You had any specific questions?
Yeah. So, as in, how or when the ambassadors are onboarded, like what is the process for that?
Yeah, the ambassador onboarding is something that goes on in parallel. If you already sent, I think I saw your detail on the Indian Ocean ambassadors list as well. I think that will be useful. Let's say if we have some surprise rewards, or if we already have your wallet address, it makes it much easier to distribute rewards based on that are related with this hackathon. That is one. But the official ambassador onboarding, I think you will get an email. I think some of the folks here also got onboarded recently, and I think you will get. His name is Andrea. He's handling the official ambassador onboarding that onto the Discord, and we'll have a separate call that is almost like one-to-one with all the people who got onboarded. I think Yana was also there, part of the region onboarding process as well.
Yeah, so you will get an email. I think there is one batch that is getting onboarded upcoming Monday. I think Nivedita, she's on the call. No. But yeah, I think there are batches that are getting onboarded every 2 weeks, I believe, 1 or 2 weeks. I think the cycle goes on. So as and when, if you have filled up the form and uploaded the pledge and stuff, you will get an email for onboarding.
Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to confirm that was last step in the process. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
filled the form, but I didn't find a place to upload my pledge.
Hey, sorry, I can fill you in that as well because I'm an ambassador too now. And so basically, on the 23rd or the 24th question. Once you finish, there is a form that you'll have to fill, and under that there is a pledge as well. So you have to download the pledge, you have to e-sign it, and then in the form you need to upload the pledge. Once you submit the form, you won't get an immediate response, but if you're selected for the ambassador program, you will get an email, and then through that email you can join their Discord as well. So we have a ambassador call next Monday. I can probably get more details about what is the duration of the selection process, like within how long do you guys get responses. I can just check up on that and then get back to you.
Yeah, sounds cool. Because in the form, I didn't find a, option to upload my pledge. There's an option to upload my certificate URL, but there was no pledge upload field.
Uh,
So I wasn't. So if I missed it or it wasn't there.
Did you fill up the form on the Ocean Academy site?
Uh,
Where did you find the form?
I think it was in the Discord, or I don't know. I don't know exactly.
So there is a form in the, so you would have done the Ocean 101, right? At the
Right.
end, in the last chapter, you'll find a form. So that's like chapter 24, which is,
yeah. So in the chapter 24, the chapter 24 is called Join the Ocean Protocol Ecosystem Ambassador.
yes, yeah.
So in that, if you come down, there are two steps to do so. So first one is download and sign the pledge, and second is fill out form, attach signed pledge, and Ocean 101 certificate link. So in the first link, you download the pledge and sign it, and in the second one, you can fill the form and then attach it, and you can send them out an email.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
I think there was another form I filled out. I don't know which one was that for, but I didn't send this form. It's the second form that you mentioned for uploading
Yes.
the pledge.
Yeah, you can do this, and this is just a one-step thing. I mean, it hardly take you any time. So I think you
Yeah,
should.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for filling in. Actually, I got onboarded like almost 3 months back, so the process was much different back then. It's good to have you guys here, fill in on that. Yeah, thanks so much for that. And yeah, I think it will be. We have a updated version of the ambassador onboarding as well. I think it should be a new website is coming for ambassadors specifically, so that should be also up in another 2 weeks' time, and it will be much easier for you because once you get onboarded as an ambassador, it's not just to you can always be part of curating the main website content, so you can always do that, and you can also always refer people. uh, we don't have a active referral program, but I mean, I think the more people you onboard and refer, I think it'll be easier to handling all the data farming activities while you are on as well. Of course, it's not compulsory that everyone has to be a developer. So with the ambassador program, we have so much activities to uh, uh, engage as well. So you can always engage with a lot of traditional developers who might be interested in Ocean. So that's also one way of engaging the Ocean community as well. And of course, the Ocean DAO program is much more accessible one as well. And we have a few people who have won the grants here as well. So we'll be more than happy to help you submit an independent proposal as well. And of course, and I really love the initiative of Phoenix Hill, where the combined GDP of winnings has to reach 50K sometime this year. And I'm pretty sure this hackathon will also be contributing to that once you are able to win it as well. So yeah, thanks a lot for everyone. Thanks a lot everyone for coming. So if you have any feedback, feel free to visit our socials and share the link that will be link workshop link as well that we'll be sharing.
Thank you, Prakash. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for